Okay, for this review, I'm going to be going over one of Cody's labs. And this gentleman puts together a scale model of our system, but in this case, not talking about the solar system, although he does that at the beginning. He's talking about how far away the nearest star is when we do a scale model. So I think this extends some other ideas and does a good job. I'll give him a go to get started here.
Hi everyone, welcome back to Cody's Lab. So you might have seen those scale models of the solar system where somebody takes a football field and they mark out where all the planets are. Well, I want to try doing something similar today, but include the nearest stars to the sun. So like Alpha Centauri and Proxima Centauri, those stars like that. So I've got a bag here with some stars and planets, a tape measure. Let's go set it up. So we've come here to the Grantsville High School football field and we're going to start the scale model here. For the sun, I'm going to be using a P.
So he lets us know what he's using for his scale sun, and then from here he goes on and actually talks a little bit about how you can hold a pea out at arm's length and it perfectly blocks the sun. Again, talking about angular size, much like in some of the other scale models we've talked about. He also points out that pea held at arm's length would also block out the moon. So it's neat that he explains why he uses a pea in this model. From here he goes on, and like most of these models, he starts to talk about the solar system, and so he goes through here and does scale sizes of the Earth. That's the sun there. And then he goes up, here's the Earth. So he talks about how far away the Earth is and how important an astronomical unit is, the distance from the Earth to the sun. He also talks briefly here about how we figured out the astronomical unit or confirmed it using parallax and transits of Venus from different locations. So all this is really good. But the point of this is more so talking about a scale model as we move beyond our solar system. So here he's getting us to the very edge of the solar system with good old Pluto, the dwarf planet, and then he goes all the way to the other side of the football field and talks about Voyager and how far away it is. What he does a good job of in here too is he also includes screenshots. So here's a really good picture. Again, it's not super high quality, but it's still really doing a good job of demonstrating what he's trying to show us. And at this point, he moves on to talk about the next star. And so he says, in order to do this, we have to leave town. And so he does this time lapse of him driving and driving and driving and driving to illustrate the point, which again, I think is a good idea. And I'll let him come back in here and talk about how far he goes and what we see here.
Did I say leave town? I meant leave the state. We're here just outside of Downley, Idaho, and across the street from Donata Hot Springs. And here is where Proxima Centauri, or the closest star, would be located on our scale. If the sun was a pea, Proxima would be a radish seed, 202 kilometers or 125 miles away.
So here he goes on and talks about a planet orbiting Proxima Centauri and the habitable zone and how it needs to be much closer since the star is smaller. And from here he launches off to start talking about Alpha Centauri, which is the closest visible star, or at least recognizable star in our night sky. Again, I think this is great stuff. Here he's going off to talk about Alpha Cent. I've used this video in my class, and I think it's solid again as a good way to kind of explain how we would see these different things. So there he is across town. And I love the inclusion of the Google Maps to point out where different things are. He gives us so much really good information in this as well. So here he's talking about the size of Alpha Centauri, about the same size as the sun, whereas Proxima is smaller. Here he shows it in the sky. Again, brilliant stuff here. One of my favorite parts, though, is as he gets to the very end, he starts talking about other stars that we might see.
And if you guys want to know about some other close stars, well, there's Sirius, the brightest star in the sky, which would be about the size of a marble, such as this. But it would be about this much farther away and in a different direction. So
again, I love how he talks about the scale size once again. So and now he'll go into Betelgeuse.
Is from near the vicinity of is a red supergiant, which would be about the size of a car. And in order to position it on this scale, you would have to put it somewhere on the east coast of the United States. And that is assuming you started off by traveling west. Betelgeuse is around 30 to 40,000 kilometers away on this scale. in real life it's 640-ish light years off.
I love that. Just the description of how far away it is. When I've shown this video to my students, I've taken advantage of the opportunity to pause the video periodically and ask them questions, and they guess, and then we give them the answers, and it's fun because it's a neat way to talk about our misconceptions about how far away things are. And again, this is this crazy thing where it starts moving to the next scale and talking about the scale of the Milky Way and then the scale of the Virgo supercluster in our galaxy. So it's really good stuff. And it's something that's realistic, I think, for others of us to kind of put together. But it's not something that we could do in the classroom. So thumbs up to Cody and his labs. I really like this one.